Hi there! It's great to have you here with us today. In this video, we will be discussing what differentiated instruction is and the hallmarks of differentiated instruction. As a teacher, have you ever taught a lesson that worked for some students, but not others? Maybe a few finished quickly, while others stared blankly at the page. You tried re-explaining, giving more examples, but the results still varied. That's something every teacher experiences, because no two students learn in the same way. Our students come to us with different backgrounds, readiness levels, interests, and ways of making sense of the world. As such, every student has different learning needs. Just because one approach works well for some, doesn't mean it will work for everyone. That's why it's important for teachers to differentiate their instruction, to adjust how we teach so that all students can achieve the same learning objectives, even if they take different paths to get there. So what exactly is differentiated instruction? The idea was popularized by educator Carol Ann Tomlinson, who describes differentiation as a teacher's response to learners' needs. In her words,
differentiation is simply a teacher attending to the learning needs of a particular student or small group of students, rather than teaching a class as though all individuals in it were basically alike.
In simple terms, differentiated instruction is a proactive approach to teaching, where a teacher adjusts the content, process, product, or learning environment to meet students' varying readiness levels, interests, and learning profile. First, content. What students learn. You might be teaching the same topic to everyone, but you change how it's shown. The goal is the same, but the way we present the information is different. Second, process. How students learn. This is about the activities students do to understand the topic. The concept remains the same, but the path to understanding varies. Third, product. How students show their learning. Students can demonstrate what they've learned in different ways. The learning standard is the same, but the way students show their understanding can differ. And lastly, environment. The setting in which students learn. A flexible classroom environment helps create the right conditions for every learner to do their best. Then, together, these four areas, content, process, product, and environment, help teachers design lessons that meet students where they are, while still guiding them toward the same learning goals. Finally, it's important to remember that we differentiate the how, not the what. What does this mean? It means that while we may adjust how students learn through different strategies, materials, or levels of support, we do not change the learning goal itself. The goal for all students remains the same, but the path each student takes to reach that goal can differ. And that's the essence of differentiated instruction, giving every learner the support they need to reach a common destination. Now let's explore more deeply what these hallmarks of differentiated instruction actually look like in a classroom, and how teachers can apply them in practical, meaningful ways. The first hallmark is about knowing who your learners are. To know more about them, we look at three main aspects. First, readiness. What do your students already know? Can they handle the basics, or are they still struggling with foundational concepts? To assess this, you can use quick pre-assessments to test their conceptual understanding, ask questions about prior knowledge, or simply observe and listen to them in class. Next, interests. What do your students care about? For example, a lower primary student may not be motivated by real-world data applications, but they might be very interested in knowing how many students like their favorite TV show. Connecting learning to students' interests helps keep them engaged and motivated. Finally, learning profiles. This is about how students learn best. Do they prefer visuals, videos, hands-on activities, or collaborative work? Understanding this allows you to plan lessons in ways that align with their natural learning preferences. This can be done by listening to your students, noticing how they approach tasks, and reflecting on their strengths and struggles. You can also use Bloom's taxonomy to better understand your learner's readiness. Ask yourself, at this particular topic, where do my students stand? Are they simply remembering facts, understanding concepts, or are they able to apply what they know, or even able to evaluate and analyze the problems and solutions? For students who can only recall simple facts, I consider them my weaker students, as they may still need support to understand the underlying concepts. For students who can apply, analyze, or evaluate, I consider them my stronger students, as they are ready to tackle more complex tasks and deeper learning challenges. Understanding where your students are on this continuum allows you to plan lessons that meet each learner where they are, giving support to those who need it while providing challenge and enrichment for those who are ready. Once we have a clear understanding of our learners, the next step is to clarify the learning outcome. Ask yourself, what should my learners learn, and how can I guide them there? All students are working toward the same concept or learning goal, but the materials, support, and pathways we provide can differ. Differentiation is not about changing the destination. It's about adjusting the journey so every student can reach that learning outcome, regardless of their starting point or learning style. The key concepts addressed for all students is the same, but the materials we provide for each student could vary depending on how ready they are. For example, the key concept I want to teach is multiplication. For my weaker students, I might provide a worksheet that introduces the idea of a group of first. I would show how it connects to addition and multiplication, before expecting them to solve problems independently. I could even include pictorial support on the worksheet, simple images or diagrams that help them visualize the concept and build confidence. On the other hand, for my stronger students, instead of providing them the same worksheet, I might show them the multiplication chart and focus on patterns and shortcuts, challenging them to apply multiplication in new ways. This example shows how all students are working toward the same learning goal, which is understanding what multiplication is, but the support, materials, and level of challenge differ depending on their readiness. Here's another example. For the concept on water cycle, I would provide a simplified diagram for my weaker students. This diagram highlights only the key processes. For my stronger students, I could provide a more complex diagram that shows additional connections, such as how the water cycle interacts with our environment or daily life, or even how the various cycles interact with each other. In both cases, while the key concept is the same, the inputs given are different. The next hallmark is differentiating the process. Differentiating the process means giving students different ways to engage with the content so that they can understand and internalize it effectively. To elaborate, students have different learning preferences. Some are visual learners, some learn best through collaboration, and others are kinesthetic learners who learn by doing. For students who learn best by seeing examples, we can use concrete manipulative in math or conduct hands-on science experiments to illustrate concepts. For students who learn best through visuals, we can provide diagrams, drawings, pie charts, or even color-coded notes. Lesson videos can also help visual learners revisit and process the content at their own pace. For students who learn best through collaboration, group work, paired activities, and discussions will enable them to share ideas, ask questions, and learn from their peers. By providing different ways to engage with the same content, we help students build understanding in a way that suits them best, while keeping the learning goal consistent for everyone. Let's quickly clarify the difference between content and process. Content is about what information we give students, the tools, materials, or resources they use to learn. Process is about how students make sense of that information, the activities, discussions, or strategies they use to understand and internalize it. In short, content is what we give students. Process is how they make it their own. The next hallmark is product differentiation, giving students different ways to demonstrate their understanding. Offering choice doesn't mean lowering standards. It simply means allowing multiple pathways to reach the same learning goal. For example, instead of asking students to write what a chemical change is, they could draw it, act it out, or explain it in another format that shows what they understand. Some students shine when speaking, others when drawing, and some prefer quizzes. By providing options instead of one fixed task, you allow students to express their learning in ways that suit them. And you get more authentic evidence of understanding. A quick tip: what we can do is to offer 2 to 3 choices, with clear criteria for each. This keeps expectations fair and aligned to the learning objective, while still giving students the flexibility to demonstrate their strengths. Finally, the environment. Where are the students learning? Do they prefer studying in quiet corners in a classroom? Or would they prefer an outdoor setting? Or would they prefer to be buddy up or work in small groups where they can interact with peers? By creating flexible learning spaces and giving students some choices in how and where they learn, we support their individual needs while keeping the focus on the same learning goal. These examples provided are non-exhaustive, and teachers can adapt based on their students' unique needs and context. Just like content, process, and product, the environment should be responsive, supportive, and purposeful, helping every student engage fully with the lesson. To help you apply these 5 hallmarks, here are some guiding questions you can use. 1. Know your students. How ready are my learners? 2. Content. How can I deliver the content so all students can access it? 3. Process. How can students make sense of the content in ways that suit them? 4. Product. How can students show what they've learned in different ways? 5. Environment. What kind of learning environment best supports this lesson? These questions are simple but powerful. They help you reflect, plan, and adjust your teaching to meet the diverse needs of your students, ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to succeed. In this video, we've discussed the key principles of differentiated instruction, what it is, why it matters, and the 5 hallmarks that guide effective differentiation. We hope you have found it useful. Drop a comment below on how you have applied differentiated instructions in class. Hope to see you soon.